You're listening to the Better Relationships After Baby podcast, where I believe your relationship can be stronger than ever after having a baby. It just takes tools, conversation, and support to help you get there. I'm Chelsea Skaggs, certified life and relationship coach, mom of two, and survivor and thriver of tough relationship challenges after babies. I'm committed to helping couples just like you improve your communication skills, connection points, and personal confidence so that you can have the life and family you've always dreamt of. Now, let's get to today's episode.
You don't really want to be touched by your partner, but you want to be touched and enjoyed and physically intimate with your partner because that's been a part of your relationship before, because that is something that you know connects you and makes you feel good. But if you are in the early throes of motherhood, chances are it is tough to rediscover intimacy after baby. If you're feeling overwhelmed or unsure of how to connect with your partner, you're not alone. I got you, babe. This episode is for you. Having a baby, we know it's great, right? It's wonderful. It has so many incredible pieces, and it also has these new what the fuck moments. These significant changes that can impact so many areas of life, but as we're often talking about here on this podcast, specifically your relationship after having a baby, that intimacy, that connection, the communication piece. So I thought today we could talk about why it can be harder to get into the mood after having a baby, how to understand what I call your turn-on needs. Literally just what do you need to get turned on, how to communicate these with your partner, and then I want to give you some tips to reignite the intimacy. And I will say I run a challenge that is called 21 Day Spark, and I've been getting some requests for it recently. So if you're listening to this episode in real time, chances are there is a challenge session coming up. And it is because of this very issue, like because intimacy and reconnecting can be really challenging. And I want to make it easier for you. I want to give you easy, practical things to do every day to connect so that you're rebuilding that trust and connection. So if you're listening to this, check the show notes. If you're watching this, look for the description. And either way, you can just shoot me a message, Chelsea@postpartumtogether.com. If you want to learn more about that 21 Day Spark Challenge. But let's get into today's topic. First, I want to just talk about why it can be so challenging to get into the mood after having a baby. I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want you to feel like you're broken or you've done something wrong or you're such a disappointment. That's not real, okay? There are a lot of logical reasons why you might not be in that place. And before we get into this, I'm going to say this episode is probably not for everyone because there are some of you who are like, you can't even wait until the 6-week mark to be back into sex and intimacy and touch and all those connection points. So this might not be the episode for you. Like, come back next week, babe. But for those of you who are struggling with that connection, let's figure out why. So during pregnancy, we know this, your body experiences a surge in hormones like estrogen and progesterone, which they need to. This helps to support the pregnancy. It prepares your body for childbirth. And after giving birth, they like plummet, like coming quickly down the hill of a roller coaster. So this is a sudden change. It can affect your mood, your energy levels, your overall sense of well-being. And this impacts so many things like your mental health, your identity, how you're connecting socially. But this also can make it harder to feel in the mood for intimacy. For those of you who are breastfeeding, or I want to add in here also pumping, I was an exclusive breastfeeder with my first and an exclusive pumper with my second who because she was born with a cleft palate, she never had really the option to successfully nurse. But when you're doing this, the production of prolactin, which is that hormone responsible for milk production, increases while your estrogen levels remain lower. Prolactin can suppress libido. Prolactin can lead to vaginal dryness. Libido and low libido and vaginal dryness often make intercourse uncomfortable and undesirable. So, here are some examples of the physical changes where your body is prioritizing the baby's needs, but can also leave you feeling disconnected from maybe your own desires. Again, like maybe you want it, maybe you don't. Maybe you want to want it, maybe you don't. Sleep deprivation, we talk about this often because it is such a huge impact on relationships. But sleep deprivation is another major factor here. Newborns require constant care. We know many of them wake every few hours throughout the night, some for a few weeks, some for a few months, some for what feels like years. This lack of sleep is going to cause that fatigue, which not only diminishes your energy, but also impacts your mental health. So when you're exhausted, when you feel at the end of your rope, it's likely that intimacy is like the last thing on your mind. Another factor is that parenting comes with a whole slew of new responsibilities, and these can impact your libido. You're not just a partner anymore. That is not like your primary role. You're a caregiver. You are supplying life to this little human, and that can be a significant adjustment. Your mental load increases with tasks like feeding and changing diapers and establishing routines and keeping up with doctor's appointments and trying to have some social time. And all of this can leave you with little time or energy for yourself, let alone your partner. I'm going to say that again because I think this is an important piece here. We are needed by so many people, so many things, and it leaves us with little time for ourselves, let alone our partner. And I remember feeling like my partner wanted and needed me, and I was like, listen, I don't even have time to think about myself, let alone another grown adult who can survive on their own. That was how I felt in the heaviest, hardest times of early parenthood. Another factor is that many new moms, me included, experience a shift in identity and struggle with body image. Pregnancy and childbirth not only, impact your hormones, but also like the physical makeup of your body, and it can take time to feel comfortable and confident again. I really love to preach like the body confidence. Love your postpartum body, know what it has done for you, but I'm also not doing this with rose-colored glasses. I also know that there were so many times I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh my God, I don't recognize myself, or I don't love this part of myself, or will this ever go back to the way it was? And so as much as we do the positive body image work, sometimes we just have hard days, or we have hard thoughts, or we have times where it just doesn't feel good. You might feel self-conscious about your post-baby body, even if your partner's like, honey, I love it. I love what this represents, or, I love the way your body is right now. Sometimes it's just hard for us because we have been conditioned for years to put a lot of our worth into how our body looks. So this can impact the willingness to engage in intimacy. And I just think it's important that we acknowledge these things and give ourselves grace. This is something I'm doing with my clients a lot. It's like we just acknowledge the hard feelings, we give grace. And then after we do that and we feel, safe to be who we are, when my clients feel safe to be who they are, that's when we can talk about what kind of changes they want to make and what kind of, what does growth look like for them. And that's what I help them to do. I also want to take a moment to say that there can be a big impact on dads too. So I talk with a lot of couples, I talk with a lot of moms, and sometimes I hear, that mom is like, I am ready to be back into intimacy. And maybe it's the partner, maybe it's dad that isn't feeling this way. Dads do face their own set of challenges adjusting to their new role, and they might not experience the same hormonal changes that a mom does when she goes through birth, but there are things like the increased responsibilities and the pressure to support the family that can impact their desire for intimacy. Dads might also struggle with feeling disconnected or unsure how to help. I've had dads tell me they feel like they're a third wheel, which can create additional stress and impact their libido. So, we have all these reasons like I want you to say, "Okay, I'm not broken. I'm not wrong." But what does this look like to understand your own turn on need? Because I don't want you to just say, "Well, this is how it is." No, chances are you want to have a relationship where you're connected and intimate with your partner and you both feel like you have that time and space specifically for each other. So here's what we do. We get to know your turn on needs. We do this gracefully, uh, but I want you to have that. I want you to have that tool to enrich your life. Understanding your turn on needs post baby does require some introspection and reflection. It is essential that you take time to think about what has changed for you. What has changed mentally? What has changed emotionally? What has changed physically? And then what are the gaps? Like, what do you need to feel mentally, emotionally, and physically in the mood again? I'm going to give you some examples. Everybody's needs are unique and they may have evolved after the baby. So it can be worthwhile to look at like, what did this look like in another season, in a, easier season or a time where we were having more sex and more fun that way. Um, but a lot of things are going to have changed. So we can't just make everything back the way that it was. We have to make things how they need to be now. And I believe that that can be better than ever. Um, Sorry for TMI, but my husband and I mean, we are, a few years postpartum now, but sex is better than it ever was pre-baby. And maybe that's just a personal thing, but I also think that it has to do with the amount of work and connection and intention we have put in to understanding ourselves and understanding one another. And I want that for you too. Like, I want a whole world where people are like, oh, hot damn, sex is better after having kids. Life is better. Our relationship is better after having kids because of this purpose and connection and, the ability to really see each other and know ourselves in ways we didn't before. Rah, rah. That's my cheer for the world. But back to the point here. We want to take time again to think about what has changed and what are the gaps. What do you need? So physically, I'm going to give you a few ideas here. You might find that your body needs have changed. For example, you might need to rest to feel energized enough for intimacy. So prioritizing sleep and rest when you can is crucial. Maybe this is just one night a week, where, let's say Wednesday is like your hanky panky night. You just know, like, you're not going to be able to get in the mood all the time, but once a week you can get in the mood. I'm not trying to take the sexy out of sex by kind of creating a schedule, but sometimes this helps my moms a lot. And then, okay, Tuesday night, I'm going to go to bed early so that I hopefully get enough rest so that Wednesday night I can stay up an extra 15, 20, 30, 60 minutes. It's going to be different for everyone, but to have sex and have an intimate connection with my partner. So prioritize sleep when you can, and even, making intentional forethought decisions about that. You might also need to feel comfortable and confident in your body again. So maybe this is, working with a postpartum exercise specialist or getting into taking walks, yoga, a fitness class at the Y or a gym around you. These can help you reconnect with your body and boost your confidence. Another really important physical need might be just addressing any discomfort. It is atrocious that pelvic floor physical therapy is a luxury in the United States, whereas it is standard of care in many other countries. If you dislocate your shoulder, you're not going to just let it heal on your own. You're going to get support, and the same should be true for a pelvic floor. So if you're experiencing vaginal dryness, discomfort during intercourse, talk to your provider. Ask for a referral to pelvic floor therapy. Sometimes even just wearing, clothing that makes you feel good about yourself or engaging in activities that help you appreciate your body can make that difference. So you want to get into pelvic floor therapy if you're having discomfort. You want to get a good lube. I have a blog post on that. I'm happy to share that with you. Maybe I'll do a whole episode on the different kinds of lubricant and how to choose a good one for your needs and for your body. You might need more lube than you ever did before. Like, these are just things that happen. I cannot recommend working with a pelvic floor therapist enough. I learned so much about my body working with a pelvic floor therapist than I feel like I ever had before as a woman. It was so intentional, and it was so empowering. And I would recommend that to anyone. And again, also, finding ways, don't just jump into your same fitness routine. Like, find the education and the resources to do that well. I, off the top of my head, know 3 people who provide virtual services for exercises after having a baby that teach you how to do it well with your body. After my first baby, you guys, I lost all the weight and more. I had great muscle definition, which is fine. It did not change my life. It did not make my marriage better. Like, it was not the key. So many people think that's the key to, your confidence in a better life. And that was not it. I say that as a caveat. Take care of your body and do what you need to do to love your body, but don't think that losing the baby weight is going to be the key to fixing all of your problems or any of them. Um, but I got into this, quote unquote great shape by societal standards, but I was peeing myself when I did my damn jumping jacks because no one taught me that I needed to repair my pelvic floor. It was like the system was just going to let me go, piss in my pants, instead of saying, hey, let's find a way for you to recover and get back into fitness in an informed and empowered way. So that's my caveat about both pelvic floor therapy and finding a postpartum fitness specialist. And I mean that like whether you're 2 months, 2 years, 5 years after having a baby. Okay. Another really valuable practice, this one's a little more taboo, so like cover your ears if you are super, super PG. But another valuable practice for rediscovering your turn-on needs and experiencing pleasure again is masturbation. I did not get into masturbation. I am giving you guys so much information. This is like the TMI episode, but I did not get into masturbation until after I had a baby. And I was like, oh my God, I have to figure out how to make this work again because the first few attempts were just not working, did not feel good. I was like, grin and bear it, get this shit over with. But masturbation allowed me to really explore and understand how my body had changed post baby. It allowed me to figure out what felt good and what had changed. And it reminded me of what that pleasure felt like. And then it allowed me to communicate with my partner and let him know, okay, this is what has changed. And this is a position that's just not working right now, but this is really good. This feels like safe and empowering for me. Self-exploration is meant to be empowering. So it allows you to imagine and experience pleasures in a way that you're in control, you feel comfortable, and then you're able to understand your own body's responses and what brings you pleasure so that you can guide your partner in that reconnection. So I know it can be taboo for some, but it is I believe, an important step for many in rebuilding that sexual confidence and creating a more fulfilling, intimate life. Now, those are some ideas of the physical needs. I want to also talk about some mental needs. So, mentally, you might need to reduce stress, which I'm just going to laugh as I say that because wouldn't we all love to reduce our stress? But to create mental space to feel in the mood. I talked earlier about my clients that pick one night a week to focus on having intimacy, especially in the first few months and even couple of years after having a baby. And this is why this works, because your brain is going to be running in so many different directions. Your body is touched out. You are exhausted. But if we can intentionally make a space, then there are tools we can use to get into the mood. So, again, let's say Wednesday night is your sexy hanky panky night. Then, you know what? On Wednesday day, you get to be extra intentional about maybe doing a meditation or mindfulness or deep breathing. Maybe it is having time to read a good book, maybe a smutty book if that's your jam, like listening to music that gets you in a great headspace or engaging in a creative hobby. So I like to say that, like, okay, again, if Wednesday is the one night a week, you are just committing to getting yourself in the mood. Like maybe sexy time happens other nights, maybe it doesn't. But that's one day a week that you can say, I'm going to get myself in the mood. So, what I would tell you to do is to listen to music that makes you feel sexy. Like, turn on the old J-Lo tracks or whatever it is that you can, like, you know, hopefully you can't see me. You can, like, do a little body roll and a little bump and grind with your ass while you're sweeping and putting away the dishes. Like, let that steam from the mac and cheese hit your face like you are in a sexy movie scene. And also take time to clear your brain mentally. Having so many mental tabs open can be one of the biggest killers of sex when it's like we get into it and then you think like, "Oh shoot, the dog needs a veterinarian appointment. Did I turn on the washer? When are the next vaccinations?" Like all of these things that can come up. So you want to try to clear that space at least once a week when you can do that. I also recommend just keeping like a notepad or a journal somewhere nearby so that you can like try to jot all of those things down. Try to get your brain clear and make some mental space. This also means like setting boundaries and delegating tasks can help you manage your mental load. There's a phrase called chore play, which is like, babe, if you are stepping in and contributing, I don't like to say helping me with the chores. I think that is just continuing to continue the patriarchal societal bullshit. But if your partner is stepping in to add value to the family, to take care of the home and the kids and the things that need done and alleviating some of that mental load and not just assuming that mom is going to take care of it, that is a beautiful form of foreplay that many like to call chore play. Now what I'm not saying is, men, every time you put away dishes or laundry that you're going to expect sex out of it. No, just show up and be a good human, be a good partner. That is going to make it more likely that your wife, your partner, your baby mama wants to connect with you and wants to engage physically because you are stepping into those places. And then your emotional needs. We talked about this on the podcast last week that some people really need their emotional cup filled first, and some people um, want their physical cup filled first before they open up emotionally. So this is kind of that chicken and the egg. But emotionally, you might need more connection and understanding from your partner. Feeling emotionally supported and appreciated plays a huge role in your desire for intimacy. So, regularly communicating with your partner about your feelings, sharing your day, expressing appreciation for each other can strengthen that emotional bond. And then that emotional intimacy can lay the groundwork for physical intimacy. Maybe it is, taking 10 minutes where your phones are down every evening or afternoon or morning or when it works for you and just having a conversation about your days, like phones down, distraction free. Maybe this is going to bed together and laying your heads down and saying, your high of the day, your low of the day. And in our family, we call it high, low, piccolo. So your high of the day, your low of the day, and just something silly, like something that made you laugh about the day. Just building intentionally this emotional connection. I want to give you just a couple of other ideas here for practicing introspection. So, journaling is a great way to do this. A lot of people are familiar and confident in journaling. Mind mapping, where you create a mind map to visually organize your thoughts and feelings about intimacy. So this might be the word intimacy in the center with branches, physical needs, mental needs, emotional needs. And then under each of those categories, you write down the specific thoughts or activities that resonate with you. This is a great thing to also share with your partner, have your partner do and compare. This is something we can do in coaching if you want to work together. Meditative reflection, so setting aside time for a meditation or a guided meditation, just focusing on how your body feels, what thoughts come to mind. I like to use Insight Timer. There are also some apps like Headspace and Calm. Um, and for this, I think especially if you're thinking about getting into intimacy, a body scan can be really helpful. Gratitude practice, having a gratitude journal where you and your partner write down things that you are thankful for with your family, your life, your relationship together. This can increase your intimacy by, really focusing on what you do have to love and celebrate with each other. And maybe it's creating a vision board. Like, what do you want to represent your ideal intimate life? Where do you want to go with your intimacy with your partner? What do you want it to look like in a year or 5 years? Talking about that vision can be really helpful as well. So once you understand these turn-on needs, the next step is communicating them with your partner. I talk a lot about communication skills here, so I'll make this kind of a quicker segment on today's podcast. But open and honest dialogue is always key. Start the conversation without blame or guilt, but focus on your feelings and needs using I statements. I feel loved when you blank, or I need some quiet time to myself in order to feel connected with you. And choose the right time and place for conversation. So choosing a calm, neutral time to talk. Perhaps when the baby is asleep or you have uninterrupted time, or maybe the baby is just playing calmly together. But the scene for your conversations can make all the difference. Make sure you're both in a good headspace to listen and share openly. It's not when your partner comes out of the bathroom and is on their way to work. It's not when you have just finished a romantic comedy and you're feeling, a certain way. Like finding those neutral times where you both feel like you can show up for the conversation. And then creating a plan to meet each other's needs can be incredibly helpful. Discuss the practical tips you can take to support each other, which might include things like scheduling regular date nights, the idea of having one night a week that you focus on, as long as nothing catastrophic happens, that's a night for intimacy. That's the time you get to really prepare mentally, physically, and emotionally to engage that so that it's not lingering in your head all the time. Be proactive and intentional about your intimacy, and that's going to help rebuild that connection. So, as we wrap up, we have discussed that there are challenges of rediscovering intimacy after having a baby. But this skill I want you to take away is that you get to tune in and care about your turn-on needs. You get to investigate, reflect, envision, figure out what does it take for you to be turned on. Is it reconnecting with your body and feeling good in your body again? Is it feeling emotionally connected to your partner? Is it clearing the mental tab so that you can actually show up in an intimacy session? I guess I have sex on the mind. Remember that there are these small practical tips to reignite that spark. And if you want some help doing that, remember to reach out to me over the Spark Challenge that is coming up. We want to take small steps, be patient with yourself and your partner, but recognize that intimacy is an important part of your relationship. And being a team that is getting to a place where that is back and better than ever before is an important step. So maybe you feel great about doing that yourself. Maybe you could use some support, in which case I invite you to explore coaching with me. I help a lot of my clients to figure out how to get in a place where sex and intimacy and connection feels not only feasible, but enjoyable again. If that is your goal, I can help you get there. I'd love to hear your experiences or any questions about today's topic. So feel free to reach out, share your thoughts, subscribe to this podcast. Obviously, it's super helpful when you do that so that we can reach more and more families. And then you'll easily get the episodes. It'll remind you, and you don't want to miss it. You can also get more community and trainings and resources in my free Facebook group, which is the same name as this podcast, Better Relationships After Baby. Remember, you're not doing this wrong. You are a good mom. You are a good dad. You are a good parent. And a lot of things shift and change during this season, and that's okay. You might not be in a place you want to be right now, and that's okay. But don't stay there. There are ways to grow, ways to change, and ways to have the confidence and the connection and the communication that you deserve in a great relationship. We're here to make more great relationships happen, and I want that for you too. Can't wait to talk to you again soon, mamas. Goodbye.
If you enjoyed this episode, I would be so grateful if you take a minute to help spread the word. As a small business owner, shares and reviews go a long way. So share this episode with a friend, share it on your social media, and please leave a review if you haven't done so. This helps these messages get to more mamas, and you guys, that's how we change the world.